All right, so this is ProbstCast episode 2. I figured I'd share a story. Got a lot of good ones from when I was in college. Went to college from fall of 1990 to graduating in like spring of 96, I think. It's on the 5 or 6 year plan. Anyways, always did good in school, had like a 3.3 average in college. Just really wasn't in much of a hurry to get out. It was kind of like a giant socialist equalizer, what with between financial aid and scholarships. I actually lived better in college as a poor college student, really, than I did as a kid at home, just because of the kind of predictability and stability of it. And I responded well to it. Anyways, that being said, I went to college at Washington State University, in a small town, a big college in a small town in eastern Washington. So basically, by third year, my first year I went to Central Washington University in Ellensburg, which is eminently forgettable. The only thing you can remember about that town is it smells like cow shit. So my sophomore year transferred to WSU, affectionately known as Wazoo. Um, and one of the things you would do is you would walk around campus and you would look for experiments or tests that needed people to take part. And this was kind of a nice little cash moneymaker. So it always paid to keep your eyes peeled out on campus, especially near like the science or psychology departments. And they'd give you money to take part in experiments because, hey, they're students and they need data. So one day, this is like fall of 1993, I saw a sign that said memory test, $10 per participant, report to, this hall or room or whatever, and it takes about an hour. And so this was like, basically like seeing a $10 bill on the sidewalk. You had to pounce on these things because it would fill up pretty quick. They'd give it to like 20 or 25 people. So anyway, so I get lucky. I show up there, they're still taking people, and I can tell you that half the time they were already full. I mean, we were all desperate to make this money. So I show up there, I get in, and they usher in about 20, 25 of us into a dark room somewhere in the bowels of the Washington State University psych department. And this test is on visual memory. So what it is it's basically two tests at once to examine how much you retain information you consume visually. So it shows you a series of sentences that comprise a paragraph, like Bob walks his dog every Thursday. It shows that sentence in a darkened room on the overhead. Then it shows the next sentence. His dog is a Labrador named Gus. And then that disappears and it shows another sentence. Gus is a very nice dog, even though he nips people occasionally. And then it shows another sentence. They live in Des Moines, Iowa. So then you'd answer a bunch of questions. What kind of dog is Gus? What days of the week does he walk Gus? Where do they live? What color is the car they drive? To make sure that you were paying attention to the comprehension aspects of the sentence. And you had to pass a pretty high amount of those to make your exam count, which means you had to pay attention to the details and how the sentences related to each other. But then, as the twist of the visual memory span, you also had to remember the last word of every sentence. So Gus walks his dog. He walks his dog Gus every Thursday. They live in Des Moines, Iowa. He's a nice dog, but he nips people. Whatever. So it was kind of weird. You had to do this sentence comprehension, but remember the last word of every sentence. So there were, I think, 15 four-sentence paragraphs, and you had to take all these comprehension questions about them to make sure you were paying attention to the sentences and the larger story they were telling. But at the same time, you had to remember the last word of every sentence. So I'm sitting there saying this little mnemonic or rhyme to myself, remembering the last word of every sentence as it comes along, but also processing. And so we're in there for 45 minutes or whatever, and I'm sort of tickling both sides of my brain at once. And at the end of every, 4, 6, or 8 sentences or whatever, we write down the 4 words, or 6 words or 8 words or whatever that was the last word in every sentence. And so we get done and we turn our shit in. And we wait like 10 minutes. This psych professor, we all get brought into his office, and he's got this sort of entourage of graduate students with him. And they called out people's names, Robert Smith and Jennifer Miller and yada yada. And they give people a $10 check and send them on their way. And so, there's a couple dozen people here. And they call out everybody's name but mine. And I'm kind of getting uncomfortable because I need my $10 because I'm looking forward to the night that this $10 is going to bring. I mean, this is a pitcher or two of beer and a pack of smokes. It's a serious windfall. And so finally on the last one they go, "Are you Probst?" The professor says to me, I'm like, "Yeah." There's like nobody left. And he goes, "Well, Mr. Probst, I've been giving this test for 25 years, and there's 60 sentences that people need to remember the last word of. And the top 5% of the population remembers 43 of those 60. Now, every couple years, I'll get a 48, maybe a 50 every 5 years. This is the best of the best. You got 58 out of 60. And he goes, "Who are you?" And all of a sudden, kind of the weight of the whole delay kind of dawned on me. All these people are staring at me. I'm standing there. I'm, in some flannel shirt, full grunge. It's probably got vomit on it and stink like cigarettes, and probably haven't bathed in a couple days, and certainly haven't laundered my clothes in at least a couple months. And I sit there and I say, "So do I get the $10 or not?" And he just shook his head and just rubbed his temples and just threw me the $10 check. He said, "Just go, just leave, whatever." So yeah, that was my experiment. It's contributing to the greater scientific knowledge of America. You know, I like to think that that guy thought I would have been like a career discovery, but I was just another drunken jackass, albeit an autistic savant in Pullman, Washington. So yeah. So however you make the $10, make the $10, but just make sure you get paid. That's what I'm saying, kids.